Hi, favored ones. Welcome to Soul Talk. Our guest for today is Dr. Arnel Uy. This is the second episode for Man of Glory. And I'm really quite excited. Lagi naman ako excited. But this is really special because I haven't really talked to him for quite a while. Dr. Arnel was my professor back when I was still taking up MBA, was
Oh,
teaching financial planning back then. And I remember being so intimidated because he was new to teaching. So parang wala akong feedback. Hindi ko alam, ano ba, paano ba yung style niya? But then it was really very surprising because it was very practical. And actually, he's also one of the reasons why I also fell in love with finance.
mm,
So thank you so much, Dr. Arnel, for being here. How are you?
thank you very much, Brendy. It's been a while if you were my student in financial planning.
Hindi ko na sasabihin kailan yun.
I
Indicative
know.
of my age as well.
And my age too. I know. But what is age and what is it just a number? Diba? Anyway, thank you very much, Brendy, for this time to at least catch up on one another and perhaps have a discussion and a conversation about life. I think that's what we're missing in the classroom.
Yes,
Mm-mm.
definitely.
Yeah,
Sometimes as much
true.
as I want to inject it into into the class, parang medyo, teka, nagmamadali ako sa topics. Hindi pwede.
You know, that's actually my advantage because I've been teaching for so long that sometimes I'm able to now prepare things and put it in the right timing. So when I discuss in class, I insert things about life because the topics may change. I mean, there are certain content in your class that might change over time, right? So relevance might not be there forever, but life lessons, I think that's something that is very, very important. Kasi you learn that
Eh,
too eh, right?
oo.
Mm-mm.
And of course, there's a reason for having the students in our roster or having a
Mm.
professor teaching
Yeah,
us. There's always a bigger purpose.
correct.
I really believe that that person or the students that I have, because I'm also teaching right now, they're
Mm.
also meant to, give me messages about certain
Correct.
situations in the classroom or in life. So
Yeah,
I am
true.
enjoying it. Just
Actually, I
listening.
learn also from students. That's the
Mm-mm.
reason why I continue to teach. Because if not, I'm not the kind of a person who wants to do things repeated. I mean, repeat things, the lessons, etc. Even if I have the same topic or the same class, the same subject, it's different every term because I have different
Yes.
students, and the conversation changes. Diba?
And not only the students are different, we ourselves are different
Oh,
every
correct.
term.
Yes. As the Chinese proverb said, diba? You cannot cross the same river twice. It's either the river changes or you're not the same you.
Even if it was way back that you were my professor, it really left a mark that there was a certain quality in terms of your teaching. And there was even one time I remember we were having a quiz or an exam and you were playing operatic music. So for me, tuwang-tuwa ako kasi that was the time I was so into operas and I was like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
she's playing operas music. So parang ako nag-enjoy and then my other classmates were like, what's happening?
yeah, that was not intentional. I listen to music because that's part of the soundtrack that I want to live. I mean, every moment there's always that kind of a soundtrack that you want to be in the mood for the moment. Otherwise, sometimes you get too busy with the ringtones and all that, life passes you by. And you catch up, but it's difficult, right? So those are rare moments that I can play those during exam, and I'm happy to hear that. Looking back, you're one of those who benefited or at least who enjoyed that, and it spoke to you at that particular point in time, right?
Kaya rin naging sobrang memorable kasi natatawa ako sa iba. You're not used to operatic music. And it was like, ang ganda-ganda, grabe.
Well, that's true. I do that from time to time. Sometimes I get the vibe and the feel of
Mm.
your class where they are, and you flow, right?
Mm.
Yeah. But
That's
anyway,
also how you live life
yeah,
to get the vibe and be in the flow.
yeah, true. But you need to be prepared too. I mean, I can flow only if I'm prepared too. Not only physically, mentally, spiritually, but also sometimes when you take a look at preparedness, it's also about skills that you have that you hone over time, right? And you can flow because you did your homework. Growing up, sometimes we don't like the word homework, di ba? I mean, it's
Oh,
something to do with uh, you cannot play, you cannot do what you want because you have to do something outside of the class. But it's right. But homework, I realize it's something very very important in life. You have to do your homework so when the time comes, the right moment, you're ready, right? Anyway, so that's something that I appreciate. But doing homework sometimes takes a lot of uh, how do I call it? Force
discipline.
and discipline. Yeah, of course, that's true.
You know what
Yeah.
your definition of excellence is? Because you seem to be a very happy-go-lucky person, but at the same time, there's this intensity when when you speak or when you do things, when you make decisions. Could you define what excellence is for you?
Most people will actually be confused and will interchange the word excellence and perfection. Right? I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes that comes to mind. But over time, I realized that they are not the same. Perfection is a standard or a set of perhaps criteria that you have defined. 100% is perfection for most of us, right? But for me, I think excellence is more of a continual process of improvement. It's not a destination that you have to reach, but it's somehow a continuous process of transformation. I like the word transformation because it transforms you and makes you better. So excellence becomes now something innate in you that you can show rather than excellent in just one aspect. And excellence is actually multifaceted and it's not just one area. You can be excellent in drawing because you have done something to prepare yourself to draw, right? And that's a skill. But what you draw and how it comes out, there's a different excellence there because it's not about skill. It's attitude, it's value, it's perspective, right? So excellence is continuously transforming yourself, right? And
I like that word, transforming.
yeah,
And are you still transforming?
of
Would you
course,
believe that?
yes, I am. I mean, every day, every moment. Otherwise, the moment you stop growing and transforming is the moment you start dying. I like that particular phrase. It keeps me sometimes on the ground. But that does not mean that you have to be in motion all the time. Sometimes we confuse that. I mean, transformation is motion or doing things. No, it's not. Transformation is a change from within, right?
Oh,
And that
beautiful.
somehow, di ba? That somehow makes you be better or makes you not the same as before. Sometimes you fall, but at least when you transform, you know you are different, right? So I guess that's one of the area where the word excellence is when you live life with excellence. That means to say you're in the continuous quest to grow and transform yourself. To where? To what? To whom? Well, maybe only time can tell if you're ready, prepared, and ready. Because doors open, right? And when the right door opens, you know, are you prepared? The worst thing that can happen is a door opens and you're not prepared because you don't
That
have that sense of excellence. And that means you are already doomed to failure. Even if the door is actually a promotion, right? Sometimes we forget that because we are always in a hurry. That's why,
in your case, kasi you've had a lot of promotions in life, even in the academe. Ang daming promotions. And have you ever felt ready for leadership roles? Because it's a big responsibility to have that position.
Yeah. Position and leadership are different things for me, right? That's why when you take a look at the word leadership, there's a lot of definition out there. And you can pick the one that sounds better, or that you like more. But somehow when you take a look at the word leadership, it connotes something different in me. I mean, you take a look at word leader, it means it's not the way that you perceive it as being promoted or being uh, put into a pedestal that people look up to you. I think it's the reverse. When you take, I always believe in servant leadership. I mean, that's something that you do, right? I mean, we hear that often, etc. But it's really about understanding when you lead, you have to be a servant. You need to serve. Because leadership is first and foremost the heart to serve others. So whatever position, role you're given, you need to have that. If you don't have a heart, then you're just going to do things in motion. Right? And if you do things in motion, it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. Then you are a robot. Do you live? Are you alive? And the only thing about leadership is you can only serve if you are alive. Because you will see the fruits. Sometimes when you lead people, one of the things that I always look at is, am I affecting that person or influencing the others in terms of the advocacies or the things that I need to do in this situation? For example, if you're a teacher, Brendy, you know this. If you're a professor, you lead the discussions, right? And sometimes you're just given that role. But when I discuss, I always ask myself this question. If I'm going to handle a class, what's in it for them? Right? How do I serve them now? Is it just a checklist that they have to finish this course and therefore do things in compliance? But maybe they need to just comply first, but later on receive the value as they journey. Right? And this is where you see influence. Like what you just shared earlier, classical music. Did I lead you? I mean, I just wanted to have an ambience because I know that the exam is very difficult for some and you're already pressured. So how do I help you? I cannot give you the answers. It's not going to help you a lot. But giving you an ambience might be one. Right? So this is where you see that word leadership comes in.
Oh, pero it's really interesting that you've mentioned service when it comes to leadership. But then when we think of service, kasi 'di ba 'pag leader talagang meron authority, there's power.
Yeah.
Do
Correct.
you think that in serving, there's also that power and
Okay.
authority behind serving?
Um, yes, there is both direct and indirect. That's what I believe. The direct power and authority comes because you have a role to play. You have been assigned a certain position. To this year's election year, the presidency, for example, is that leadership? That's a position. But that position opens up a door for you to serve. Right? So because you have that position, you are expected to do certain things, to serve technically, right? But are you really serving, helping? But because of that position, you're given power and authority, right? So that's the direct part. But the indirect part is this. Even if I'm not the president, can I serve? And affect the other people. You get that? So sometimes there's that indirect capacity for you to influence, and that's more powerful than any position. Right? For me to serve you, to help you make the right choice in life in wherever you are, are, I guess that's more powerful than me being the president of the of the entire universe, right? And Brendy, this is
I like how you structured yung ano mo, your way of thinking and the way you perceive things. It's quite unique. I think that's also I believe that's also one of the reasons why I also enjoyed your class. It was coming from a different point of view and it's not just textbook knowledge.
but Brady, it's a journey for me. When I started teaching, I was so afraid that I need to memorize the textbook, etc. Because the expectation of students first is the content side, the textbook, etc. But over time, when I matured in the journey, I realized that learning is about living, and living means what? Equipping yourself to be literate about certain things. And that's the reason why when I teach right now, sorry, but I don't really believe in textbook. I believe more in course packs. Because the textbook sometimes confines you to a certain set of, this is what you should do, etc., etc. But life and the topic that you're discussing, no matter what it is broader than that and more exciting. There's a lot of new things that we're encountering. If I teach finance, I'm teaching finance this term, right? Again, in the undergrad, right?
Oh, that's
So what
so
happens now?
fun.
I know, right? But do I talk to them about finance like the textbook? Aging of receivable, collection period, credit terms. It's passé. You have no credit card, you have no GCash, and all the other, because of the pandemic and even because of Industry 4.0. So there's now a lot of things. So how do you update the textbook? But the foundation is there. It does not go away. This is how you do
Yeah.
your cost benefit, measure it, etc. But when you make a choice, that's just one consideration. The quantity. What about the quality? Sometimes the gut feel. Right? Sometimes we give this more importance than this. But the gut is actually 95% of our thinking power. I'm not sure if you heard about that in science.
Sa psychology, di ba? There's three minds. Your mind, your heart, and your gut.
Yeah, true.
So people make decisions based on those three. So whatever is stronger or the stronger influence, then
But
that's what they follow.
the more powerful one is the irrational mind. Because irrational mind is just 5% of your mental capacity, but the gut is the feeling.
Yeah. Daming ang gut, gut decision
Gut, di ba?
making.
And that's the reason why, if you take a look at gut, just a segue, gut is the root for all sickness and disease. If gut is not taken care of, I'm not sure if you read about gut, because if you take a look at practical medicine or functional medicine, they're doing that now. Gut. That's why you take a look at how what you eat or take care of your gut, probiotic, prebiotics, all of those things. It helps you become well.
It's true. Kasi ang dami
Yeah.
talagang meron issues with their gut. It's just that they're so used to it. They're so used to the discomfort that they just don't mind it anymore.
It's actually in the gut where all the poison comes, and sometimes if it becomes now recurring and it triggers now certain malfunction of your systems. I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, but I
Yeah.
have doctor friends, and we journey in that area too.
That shows your age.
No, we journey because that's actually what we mean, right? I mean, I do that for my kids too, by the way. Like, for example, the best way to get healthy, IF,
Of course, yes.
intermittent
I
fasting. But you
would
know
I
how to,
would I would agree to
diba?
that, yes.
Correct. So a simple thing. So I tell them, maybe one of the things that you do, you don't need to do IF like the textbook. But there's a simple rule that we take. 12-hour, 24 hours a day, you have to have a longer period where you don't eat than when you eat in a day. That's it. So if your last meal was 7 o'clock, eat at 7:01 in the morning. Because you're gonna sleep anyway, right? Just drink water or black coffee. That's what we do anyway. So, and then that helps your body process things anyway.
You know, this is so fun because I'm seeing the human side of you. Because I always, see you as the professor, okay, the professor of finance, the person who was chair of the department before and had, big position or roles
Yeah,
to lead people, di ba? Yung mga ganyan. But
yeah.
as a man, what do you think are your main duties and responsibilities?
That's a very tough question because sometimes you cannot answer that with a straight question. But over time, I want to keep it simple. And sometimes what guides me are the things that I reflect on every day. And part of that is actually the realization that in life, what's more valuable to you and what's your cause? Why do you live? Why do you need to get up in the morning and do things? Why do I need to talk to you, this guy and that guy? Right? I mean, these are questions sometimes, right? I don't want to make it mechanical. So I'm always guided by this uh, principle. What am I expected to do here on earth? And there are only three
Deep
things.
and profound. All
Yeah,
right.
there's only three things. It's in Micah 6. I read the Bible, and one of the things that resonated to me was, how do you simplify everything else? Because if Solomon can say that everything is meaningless, what therefore creates meaning and purpose? What is expected of you? And in Micah, he mentioned three things that, maybe that sums up everything that is important as your duty. One, to do what is right. But that's not easy to say, right? To do what is right, what does it mean? To tell the truth? Wow. Do you mean to say if I know a truth, I have to tell it? No, that's not sometimes right. You get the point? So, to do what is right takes a lot of things into consideration. So, one, to do what is right. That's your duty. Second, to love mercy. Because you're not perfect. I am not perfect. But if you take a look at mercy, that means to say, if you have been given mercy, then you should also be merciful to others too. And that's where you to respect others. Even if you're my student, even if I used to also be I used to head a school while doing alasal on the side. The board of trustees appointed me as president of a basic ed school. So I have nursery, pre-kinder to grade 12. I
Oh,
handled. So I talked to them in the quadrangle during, morning formations. So you respect them. So because you have also been given the same. So you love mercy, right? But the third and the last that I think was that captured me there. It always becomes my motto and my guide to walk humbly with your God. Uh, Sometimes we walk humbly and we say we always bow. Is that being humble or humility? I think the more important thing there is you walk humbly before your Lord, your God. And you don't need to be a Christian, a Catholic. It does. Who is your God? Because that's the being that you respect the most. And this is where you walk humbly before Him. So your accountability is ultimately with Him. Right? So how does that become practical? Oh, wow. So at the end of the day, haven't you noticed that in life, sometimes things make sense only when you look back and connect the dots? You cannot connect the dots moving forward. You can only connect the dots taking a look at the back. Right? Because you don't know what will happen next. So ultimately, how do you make certain choices when it seems to be very difficult to choose one? And sometimes when you make a choice, you kind of feel, did I make the right choice? And sometimes you linger there. So at the end of the day, I always take comfort in, if I make a choice, I need to make sure that is it the right thing to do? Is it because I have been given mercy and therefore I'm compassionate and merciful to others? And I am submitting and surrendering myself to the will of God. I'll just give you an example siguro, just to you know naman in DLSU or in a university setup, you're appointed administrative positions, right? So administrative position is different from your role as a professor, right? And as a professor, you have different ranks and promotions that you mentioned, right? Depending on what you can contribute. And there's a set of criteria and standards, right? Point system, publications, degrees, credentials, etc. Right, Verdi?
Dami, no?
Oo. But
Community work.
I mean, ngayon may community work and there's points. Like, but there's also that other side where you admin. Admin means you're given term limits. You're appointed to do this role. So you become the lead accountable person to deliver this. Right? So if you take a look at that, do you accept invitations to become administrators? It will take time off for you to do certain things that will promote you. Being administrator, 1 year, 2 years, then maybe 6 years at the most. Then when you get back, you have to get back again to square one with the, where you are, where the discipline is in terms of all of that. So sometimes there's a choice. So I learned early on that when you are given an appointment, accept it as a door first to serve. Why? Because you're now given the authority to serve in this capacity and institute certain change. Right? So that's something that I considered. So if I'm not appointed, do I feel bad? No, I don't. Because appointments are just that. And positions are just roles that are given to you with responsibility and hopefully with authority. Right? Because that's something that you need to carry on. And that's why when you look at it, my journey has always been ups and downs, with appointment, without appointment. I don't mind. But becoming a leader, becoming a professor, I always do that. Because wherever I am called, I serve. I respect people. Right? And I surrender. Sometimes we get this feeling, remember this? If God closes the door, He opens the window. If someone closes the door, God opens the window. Tama? It's not correct eh. The more I realize, why do you need a window? Are you a thief? Because only a thief will go out the window, di ba? So for me, if someone closes the door, God will open another door. Wait for that. Sometimes
Definitely.
windows open, don't. Right? So it has to be a door, and the timing is there. So sometimes you are being prepared for that. That's why your homework comes. In the small things, that's actually where responsibilities build up. Right?
I totally agree with what you said. And you have expressed it in a very explicit way. I love it. But
Yeah.
after having so many, admin positions, I know it's a huge responsibility then to
Mm.
serve and
Yeah.
to somehow create change in the things that you uh, um
Mm-mm.
but then you're still a happy person. When I look at you, you're always smiling. How do you take care of yourself? It seems like you really, really enjoy being alive.
It's not always true that I am always smiling and happy. But but I think it's one thing to be grateful all the time. That's something that should not be stolen from you, because if you're grateful, happiness flows. Grateful for anything, the good, the bad. Who's to say it's good and who's to say it's bad? I'm not talking about the real bad stuff, right? I mean, I'm
Yes,
talking
of
about
course.
things that happens to you. Like during the pandemic, I was in a class, and just imagine it's an MBA class, so 3 hours, etc. After around 1 hour or so, I started realizing that my my kids started to enter the room and wanted to talk to me, and my wife, etc. So I think something was wrong. But you're in a class, what do you do? I always prioritize that. But at that particular point, it was because my dad was in the ICU and he has been in a critical situation already. And so it was a time where do I need to excuse myself from my class? It was just recently. So I said, guys, I'm sorry, but my dad is in the ICU and there's some news. I have to attend to this. In the middle of a discussion. Just imagine that. So, whew, when you lose someone, it's not easy, especially if it's your dad. But over time, I have to be grateful for having journeyed with him. Do you have regrets? You should not live a life of regret. That's why perhaps one of the things that makes me smile, or at least, is the gratitude that overflows. Right? Every morning. But it's not easy, by the way, Brendy. I mean, there's a lot of things that you consider, the noise that you hear, right? Things that it sometimes whispers to you, and you're not always going to be tip top, right? So what do I do? You know, if there's one thing that I do every day is this: I really ensure that I start the day right. I make it a point to start it and reclaim the day. Sabi nga nila, carpe diem, right? Capture the day. But you know, it's a nice thing to hear, unless you do something. So, how do you become grateful all the time? Start it right. And how do you start it right? For me, I have my morning rituals. You always have that, right?
Of course,
What's your
everyone
morning
does.
rituals, Brendy? When you wake up,
Prayer
what's the first thing?
rituals.
Prayer is just one of them, right? But what's your morning ritual when you wake up? What do you think? What do you do? Have you ever thought about that? Because it sets certain things in you, in the humanity, physical humanity of your body, your frame, your mental capacity, and of course, your spirit and your soul. Right? So, what do you do to reclaim your morning? Avoid looking at your emails. Avoid
Oh my
checking
gosh.
your text messages. Kasi in the morning, why would you do that? If it's urgent, they call you. Right? So, avoid. But how do you do that? Spend time making yourself ready for the day. You know what I always believe in? Margins. Creative. Because you really don't know what will happen during the day. But if you have margins, at least you have buffer to handle surprises and certain things that you didn't expect. Good or bad, at least you have margins. Just imagine it. During the day, it was already a class time. If I didn't have margins, how can I handle that? Right? I mean, this is why I guess you need to find your morning ritual, or at least reclaim your morning to give you that additional margins. Mental capacity, physical, emotional, spiritual. Because you don't know who will call this day, who will need your help, who do you serve today. Right?
Okay. There's really a lot of wisdom behind your words, and thank you for sharing about your dad. It must have been really, really tough.
Yeah.
But I love that you are still focusing on being grateful for having that journey with him.
Yeah. You know, when sometimes I cry, it's part of healing, right? And it's part of grieving. You need to grieve forward. Um, I always miss that time, because when the relationship between me and my dad is a little bit especially because every morning we talk, or at least every day we talk. In my When I go to work, in the car for 1.5 hours of traffic, we talk. So I mean, those were some of the moments that I share with my dad. And during the pandemic, we call each other because my dad uh, wakes up early in the morning and sleeps early also, but at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, he wakes up. That's why in the morning, if I wake up around 4 or 5, I know who to call. And there's always somebody whom we can talk to. And that's what perhaps I realized. That's why he is such a survivor. Did you know that he survived a lot of C's? Cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, carotid bypass, cardio bypass.
That's
Over
a
time,
lot of C's nga.
ang dami. See, but he was not able to conquer COVID. But at the end, I'm just grateful that, he showed us certain things. The morning habit, I picked it up from him perhaps, unconsciously, initially. But when you reflect upon it, that's true. In the morning, everything is quiet, and that's a perfect time for you to set the tone of the day. What do you do? Right? I mean, question, what do you do? Right? But
When
that
I
sets a
wake up,
tone.
I'm really so thankful to be alive. I'm really thanking God to be
Correct.
that I'm awake. So that's
Yeah.
the first thing, just upon waking up.
Yes. Correct. And then what do you do next? What do you feed your mind? Before you feed your body, of course. What do you feed your mind? What do you feed your emotions? Because that will help you also. But we need to be conscious about that and deliberate at times. So I have my morning ritual and I want to reclaim it. The first 2 to 3 hours, I don't want any email, etc. Unless that's urgent. That's why when I meet, if I have my choice, I meet at a certain period of time. If not, I wake up early so that I will have that window. I read, I just relax, be still, listen to not operatic music anymore in the morning, right? What makes you relax, right? And you exercise. When you say exercise, it doesn't have to be very, very strenuous. Sometimes I just do push-ups. Sometimes I just do planking, right? So, but the regularity, it helps you have that space, that margin to carry out the day.
That's what you meant by margin.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, you know, advice. I wouldn't want to say tip. Parang, ang ganda
Oo.
kasi niya eh. It's really
I,
useful.
I remember kasi, I picked up that concept when I read a book, Soul Space. It was an old book. I remember that because you said Soul Talk. And that book was actually a short book I picked up. It talked about that, having to have margins in life, about so that at least when certain things happen, it's not gonna affect you to the core because you have certain things that allows. What do you do with the margin? How do you create it? How do you, so it's a practical thing. But over time maybe could test how it becomes useful for you and how you build it up. But I enjoy life siguro.
Oh. Would you kasi would you say that a lot of your knowledge or the wisdom that you have right now, it's really the influence of your father?
Um, Maybe the influence of people in my life, the influence of circumstances that I have been through, and perhaps also the influence of what I feed my mind and my heart and my soul. Because
It's really a
wisdom,
conscious decision.
conscious because you're deliberate, but
Yes.
conscious not in a sense that it is something that's formulaic, that you formulate. It's not formulaic, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Diba? That value is the summation of all the present value of the future cash flows. I mean, sometimes there's a formula
Yeah.
and we live there, but it's not. Wisdom is something that is a part of experiences, hurt, and also knowledge that you test. Parang research yan, Brendy. You have a hypothesis, but the way to test it is an experiment called life.
Talagang
But you know,
gagamitin ng research as an example, no?
no, just to encourage you that sometimes you have a different perspective to the word research and all, right? But but seriously, over time I also formulated certain things about wisdom. That wisdom should be walking wisdom. Because wisdom is not inert. It's not supposed to be something that you're like Yoda only, or you are supposed to be Shifu or Ukwe, that you know you have everything. But it has to be something that you can apply and use in life to walk the journey that you have. Right? So it's walking wisdom, and I call it kicking knowledge. The knowledge that's not inert. So you need to make sure that it is active too.
Okay, sige. Parang what you're saying is that actions are still important.
No, acting upon. That you can act upon. Because sometimes action is overrated, that you need to act to be dynamic. But sometimes when you say walking wisdom, your wisdom is something that can be applied to life. It's not just good to know, very nice to hear, but you forget about it when things happen. Right? I mean, it's supposed to be something that is part and parcel of how you make choices and decisions every moment in your life. Right? That's why you walk with it. That's why life is a journey. Right? And the journey takes you to places, and the journey is not a straight path. There's always a lot of crossings along the way, and you choose which path to take.
Ano?
Tignan mo ikaw, di ba? I mean, would you end up, for me, for example, let me talk about myself na lang. I know that I want to be a professor, I want to be a teacher, right? Because that's something that I enjoy doing, my passion. But what's my purpose? To really just teach? But I have a family to feed. You don't become a millionaire by teaching, right? I mean, the sad reality is that you don't, di ba? You don't become wealthy as a professor even, correct? But I need to strike that balance on how I can provide for them at the same time do my passion. So what do I need to do? Work smart, not just work hard. Work smart. So what do I do with the work smart? I need to take my PhD, because if I'm going to stay in a university, at least a PhD will help me open a door called this level or rank, right? Which will allow me at least a little bit more than the previous rank. Right? So that's actually what working smart means. I have to take PhD. But do I need to finish it? How do I finish my doctorate? It's a struggle, right? I wanted to take it abroad because that's what my dad and I talked about before. But circumstances were not cooperating to make it happen. Situations happen. I'm given a lot of admin appointments. So the roles that I'm playing, there's a lot. So I cannot. And I'm starting a family. My kids, I don't want to live. I mean, things like that. So what happened? I started to did you know my history in the PhD? I started
Oh,
to take extra courses in math because a PhD requires certain additional understanding of linear algebra and the calculus differential in remember and linear program. I mean, something that is not just taught
linear
to us
algebra,
MBA.
calculus,
Correct.
kailangan
So what
yun.
I did, I enrolled in the undergrad course while doing teaching and doing administration. So I go to class in Barong in an undergrad. So they know me. I sit at the back, and the teachers know me. But I had to do that. That's why being humble means, can I be a student in that class? Because they get better grades than me because they're BS math majors.
That's, oo, that's
So they
true.
understand more. you're teaching, and alam mo yun, there's a lot. So, I tend to do that because that's where I need to prepare. If doors open, at least I know I've taken that out. That's why I was exempted in the first term when the PhD was offered. Because I only took the subject in the undergrad and they credited it. So
So
that's
I can
working.
relate. I can relate.
Well,
Kasi,
no,
I the linear algebra and calculus that I enrolled in, it was actually for the undergrad. And the
yeah.
undergrad was ang galing nila.
Diba? You get
Ang
that?
galing. Mm.
Yeah. But but for me kasi it's learning eh. That's why for me, teaching is learning too. That's why by heart, siguro my called passion is to be a learner. And a learner is always in a journey to understand more, to know more, to do more, right? And to influence more, I guess, right? That's why
Ano,
I'm happy.
that's, oo. Pero you're happy and at peace, di ba? With all your decisions. You have work
Oh,
hard and work
yes.
smart.
But there's a third level. Not just work hard and work smart, work to deliver.
Oh, I love that.
Kasi sometimes you can work smart, but you don't deliver. That's why you work to
Meron
deliver.
palang ganon, you work smart, pero wala pa rin results or
Kasi
output.
smart lang eh. You know, uh, you were able to circumvent the entire system. You work smarter, right? But what's the end
Walang
goal?
delivery. Oh my gosh, may ganon pala.
In other words, work to win. I mean, sometimes when you say work to win, it's not winning against somebody, but winning to get and achieve your greater purpose. So work to win. How do I work to win rather than just work smart? Example na lang, bigyan kita. How do I work to win? Well, taking my PhD, having an admin, teaching at the same time, because I need to fend for my family, right? But my kids are growing up. So what do I do? I have classes that I attend and a classes that I teach, right? So what do I do? Saturdays, kids. So what do I do? There was a time when I took my PhD, I need to spend time to study for an exam. So what did I do? Okay guys, let's go around. Sige, ganito. Oh, Starbucks was our place to go because kids love it and we have, banding. Sige, I stay in Starbucks. Go around with your mom. Go and look. After 2 hours, come back and we will have dinner together, etc. So work hard. I work hard. I work smart because I made time. But how do I now work to win? Because I don't want to lose my family and my bonding time while doing all of this. So this is where you understand that wisdom should be walked. Not just because you know it, right? And over time, that evolved. One kid, two kids, now I have four, right? And it's not, each one is different. There was a time I spent each a time with each one at separate period of time just to make sure that I have that. Today, we just had to make sure that one Saturday nights is our night. So it's our family night. What do? We do things together. Chips night, whatever it is. We watch a movie. We play games. As long as it's Saturday, but we pray together. So that was our Saturday time, and that's how you work to win. Because these are investments for something that is greater than my promotion, all of these things, right?
That's really amazing, to be hearing this from you and you explain it so well, even with samples pa. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, some of my friends would when we talk about it, that's something that we realize, and that's something that we also share together. Life, di ba? Ah,
A legacy that you'd want,
oh,
to have.
legacy. Am I going
Oo,
to
parang
die?
how do
Am
you
I
want
gonna die
ano?
soon? Am I that old?
Oo,
No,
siyempre
no,
'di
no.
ba parang even in an advanced age, there are still things that you'd want to do, 'di ba? Hindi naman natatapos yung transformation, hindi naman natatapos yung
Yeah.
growth. Mentioned that you really are a learner. There must be other things that you'd want to do. But
Yes,
at
there's a
the
lot.
end of it all, what is it that you'd want to be remembered by?
Ah, the
Diba?
legacy.
There must be a purpose
Mm,
in all the
mm.
things that you do, all the things that you learn, and all the things that you teach.
As of now, siguro, I can speak of as of now.
Yes.
What I think would be what I wanted to leave behind is that I have left seeds to people that I was able to get in touch with, and most especially to my family. Seeds that will grow to serve others more. Seeds that will help contribute to the lives of others more. Right? I mean, maybe that's why I prioritize family. I prioritize, for example, certain invitations to say yes if I can help plant those seeds or give those seeds out. You get that? So it's like I want to be known as a one that contributed to society, to humanity, and to the work that my God, has given me. And part of that is raising a family. I want my kids to later on become not a burden to society too. Hard, difficult, but maybe because you showed them one important thing that you cannot go wrong. Love. And love is not about giving them everything. I have a rule. I don't give them I don't buy them toys. Grabe, no? I don't buy them. So they have to work for it if they want toys, etc. But if it's something that will help them in certain thing, I give them. We have a rule too. Starbucks. Okay. I can buy you anything except if it's Frappuccino. If it's Frappuccino and everything else, you buy it yourself with your own money, whatever it is. But if it's coffee, I'm okay with that. Why? Because coffee is healthy. But others are all sugar and spice and everything nice. Right? So that's just a simple rule of how we apply. Why? Because I want them to know that you're called for something greater than anything. And it's not about credentials. Sometimes credentials becomes the key to open that door for you, then go for it. So if it's about PhD, then go for PhD. I even kid them. So you have to be better than me. If I have one PhD and two PhD, you have to do two or three. Right? I mean, that's some conversations that we have. But I also tell them only if it is something that will help you in the way that you have to live your life and contribute to others too. Depends. Right? So what is it? I'm not gonna force them to do certain things. I'm a little bit different in terms of schooling them and expect. I don't even force them to finish college or get a diploma. Depends what you
Ah,
want. Kasi life right
interesting.
now is different eh, di ba? I'm an educator. I'm with Shed. I formulate um, programs and curriculums and standards, right? But, it has always a purpose. And that's supposed to be aligned with what you want to do, right? That's why I homeschool my two girls. We decided to homeschool them.
Wow.
Now,
Wow.
yeah. Di ba? Kasi when you do homeschool, you allow them to learn about life. So we have time to bond. Teach them to cook, teach them to do chores, teach them to do projects that is in line with something that helps them become a better contribution to society and help them maybe realize early on what they wanted to do in life. So I have my two girls kasi are the younger ones. My two boys are older, so they're in college. So it's different. So if they want to take college courses because they want to do this to get credentials, then okay, Then after that, senior high school goes to this school so that this. So you prepare, but you leave room for them to adjust and grow. But it takes
It's a
that.
different way of thinking. But still it has sense. It makes sense. And you explain it in that way.
Actually, it's like this also. Eh. Sometimes, just imagine yourself. What if I'm gone and my wife is gone? How will my kids live? So you have to equip them to live. How? Would a PhD help them? Maybe financially or that part, pero how do they cope? Right? Because life is more than about just doing work. For me nga, sabi ko, work is supposed to be part of life. So what work is part of being alive for you? And I chose that. Because I realized that, after working in multinational, family business and all, maybe teaching in an academy is something that will keep me alive. And that's why I chose to do that. So work is play. You work, you enjoy. Of course, it's not always happy. It's not always, a bed of roses. Sometimes there are thorns in it too, because it's a rose. But overall, every day becomes not a drudgery, but it's somehow something that you look forward to. Because, oh, don't get me wrong, I'm still pressured. Oh, tomorrow I have a class. What do I tell them? Even if I know the topic, how do I now package it? How do I now talk to them about this? You get that? So I always have that mental exercise way in advance before so I can engage them more. But overall, I guess that's where choices comes in. That's why when you say wealth or money, maybe that follows. It's not going to be my main thing. It's important, but I will not be managed by money. I will manage money, but I will not be managed by that. I will not be managed by power, but I can manage power. You get that? I will not be managed by the expectations of other people because why? Remember the three things? To do what is right, to love mercy, so that I can be compassionate, and to walk humbly.
No, it's thank you for sharing that. I'm at a loss for words. It shows your depth as a person.
You know
and the
why?
way and the way you parent, your parenting style, it really shows what kind of person you are and how you also manage yourself, so to speak.
Yeah, you know why? Because I've been through a lot as well. And I guess all through that, what's the point of getting hurt that much if you don't learn from it? The lesson should be something that you just don't know, but the lesson is something that you apply in
My gosh. I hope my counselors could listen and hear you speak.
life. Ah,
Kasi yung
yeah.
iba talaga gusto lang masaktan. Gusto lang yung drama sa life.
Oo
So,
nga,
the
alam mo,
lessons are there, pero ini-ignore. And
that's why
I
you
can also
repeat the same
relate.
mistake. Diba?
I
Sometimes
can
you repeat,
relate to that
yeah.
as well.
Well, ako rin naman, until such time that, the lesson clicks to you, say, yes, Arnel, now you learn. Okay, next, move on. That's why, maganda yung sinabi mo kanina, the excellence. And I looked at it, it's a transformation. So, you cannot be transformed by just experiencing something. No, no, you have to make sure that there is something that changed from inside. Di ba?
True.
Yeah,
I
eureka
agree.
moment. Di ba?
But thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation with you. And it's just so funny because it's the last time we talked, it was really just about work. And now we're talking about this here in Soul Talk. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time. And, I don't know if you spent so much time thinking about your answers, but then it really is well thought of. And the explanations are really, really so nice. I'm amazed at how your mind works.
Thanks. But Brendy, just to be honest, the last time that I could remember us talking was about that time that you have to make a choice.
Yes.
That was the only thing that sticks to me even now, clearly.
I remember that. We just bumped sa
Yeah.
road.
Oh, yeah, true. See?
Oo.
That's why margins are important eh. Otherwise, if I can bump into you, I would not have opened up certain questions, right? And things might be different. But there is no accidents in life. There
That's
are
true.
always God incidents because He opens up certain opportunities for us to transform ourselves by serving others.
Definitely. And thank you so much. Everything that you have said resonates and it's all really applicable to me right now. And I'm sure it's not just me because, when I form the community, I'm pretty sure that most of them are also, at the same journey.
Yeah.
We all have different paths, but nevertheless, it's
Yes.
still a journey. And, inside the community, we're journeying together. So whatever it is that I'm going through, I'm sure several or some of them are also journeying at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. True. We are all in a journey in a path, and hopefully for most of us, it's a journey towards meaning and purpose, and the adventure that goes with it. Because that's what life is. 'Cause for others, we choose to miss those things.
Wag naman ma-miss, di ba?
Kasi they don't learn. They don't want to get to journey. They don't want an adventure. They want a safe life, right? I come
Yes,
upon
I can.
this quote the other day. I don't know what I picked it up because I like it. It's like you cannot reach the destination if you don't have the courage to leave the shore. Remember that kind of saying. This one naman was from Erwin McManus, and I liked it because it simplifies things, and he just simply said this: to step towards your destiny, you have to step away from your security. You have to take a step of faith.
Okay, I'm laughing because, okay, thank you, angels. That's my message. So now I know why Dr. Arnel has to be the guest here in Soul Talk. He has to tell me something, and this is it.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you
also
so
because
much.
I never saw this side of your work after our last talk. This was something that was not yet crystallized, but I'm happy that you have this kind of conversation that you share with people that you call the favored ones, right?
Yes.
Because it's true. When they hear you talk and share with people conversations like this, they're supposed to be favored because that's one step that they can take. And I hope that they take it.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and all the wisdom and learnings that you have. So I'm sure a lot of the learnings were hard ones. Siyempre may mga pain rin yan. But then, those are lessons. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing those things. And I really when pandemic is over, we would still see each other again in
Yeah, sure.
campus.
Coffee. Remember?
Well, thank you so much once again.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you
for the
too.
favored. For the favored ones. All right. So for those who are watching the live or the replay, I hope that you gain so much value from this conversation. It's for me, it's one in a million or one in a billion na makausap ko si Dr. Arnel ng ganito. And I really, really love this conversation. So I hope that you also, you know, learn from his experiences and his sharings. So if you love this content, subscribe to my YouTube and share. Thank you so much. God bless everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Rin.